Alright, so for our homework related video today, I'm going to be giving an overview of what's going on in the book, in part because the book can be a little bit confusing, and in part because there's always these little idiosyncrasies. So this is going to be a little bit on the quicker side because you can always turn to the book for the more specifics. But there are 3 exercises starting on page 130. There's 3 in a row. They're called, I call them an iris transition, a wipe reveal, and a spotlight reveal because that's the different kinds of ways we're using a mask. The book chapter titles are iris transition, handwriting, and spotlight. And a couple of these I have a Swift file so you can kind of see what it looks like. And if you hear someone yelling in the background, that's my cat, Simon. So, to start with iris, because that's the first one. So, this one does have a different image. I don't know why the book did this. This is the image they gave for the file, and the image in the book is of a spider, so go figure. But in order to get this set up, this is going to be using a shape mask. So I can grab the circular shape tool, and I always make sure object drawing is on. You can do this with object drawing turned on, right? That doesn't matter. Excuse me. We don't want to turn it into a movie clip, and so I'm gonna hold down Shift when I draw it. So that it can be a circle. Now, the tricky thing about this one of the tricky things about this one is that it's just so weird. It does not matter what color this is. You can make this fuchsia and it wouldn't matter because you're gonna get rid of it here. I can make it the most obnoxious color in the world. I can make whatever. This is just going to become the alpha channel for this background layer. And I can do that right now. I can actually set that up right now. I can right click and I can say mask, and this becomes a mask. That's what you're aiming for. Also, if you click the background, we can set the stage to black, which will make it look like it's kind of cutting to black or fading to black, right? But in order to do anything, I have to unlock it, which means we see it again. So this is one of the trippy things where we can see this is blocking the image right now, but once the mask actually turns on, you're going to see the image, right? So it's a little bit hard to get your head around that. But what the book is walking you through is setting up some shape tweens. So I make a new keyframe and I say insert keyframe, and oh my Lanta, this is so long. Stand by. This file starts with 125 frames, which is a lot, and I am way zoomed out or zoomed in, so I can't actually see anything. There we go. So I'm going to go a couple seconds in. I can always move these keyframes later. I can say insert keyframe. There we go. And the idea is to kind of reveal the image, right? Like we start small and we get bigger. So this first keyframe, I would actually want to make it smaller, and then the second keyframe, I would want to make it bigger. So I can use my free transform tool to make this pretty big and cover the whole screen. As long as it covers the whole screen on the second one, you're good. On the first one, I'm going to make it small. Now, it is everyone's temptation to make this thing microscopic. This is one of those idiosyncrasies. I'm putting it on the eyeball because I think that'll be funny. One of the idiosyncrasies of this is for people to make it so teeny, 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 tiny. But here's the thing. You don't actually have to do that. I'm also bringing the stroke size back down. And we don't need to make it teeny, teeny, tiny because we're eventually going to move this frame forward a little bit. So it's going to start from nothing and then turn into this tiny thing. If you try to make this too small, if you try to go like down to almost nothing, where it's like we're zoomed in to 2000% and this is only taking up a few pixels, it's not going to work. And it doesn't have to, again, it does not have to be that small. I can still see it here. That's okay. I promise it's okay. But we got tiny frame, huge frame, right click, create shape tween, and it should do this. Looney Tunes. That's all, folks. Actually, that's the reverse. Right? So it starts small and it gets big. And if you're wondering, great, but now it's just blocked it out to be red. Well, no, it's not. Because if I lock this layer back up, what happens? Right? That's what we're going for. The other thing we can do is if I want to move a frame, this is one of the other reasons we're doing this, is to kind of get us back on the horse of animating. I click this keyframe, let go. Like I click it to select it, and then I click and drag it. And when we do that, oh, we got to do it for the other one. We got to do it for the other layer too. It starts off at black, and then this appears. And if we watch it, if we play it, do we see now why it doesn't matter that we can see this at the beginning? The frame before, we can't. So it doesn't have to come from nothing by making this so small it doesn't work. We just make sure these frames are moved. Now the book doesn't have you move the frames forward. I just think that's a very good idea to start from black and then have it start off here and then get bigger. All right. And if you're feeling so inclined, you can, let's watch this. How fast does it go? It's pretty good speed. You could insert a keyframe here at the end to hold. So it holds out like this. And then set another keyframe up at the end where it shrinks back down. And if you want to get really clever, you can copy the first frame and paste it here. Right click paste frames. Because remember, you can copy and paste frames. So it comes on screen. And then it goes off screen. And then if you wanted to get rid of that dot, you would need some empty frames afterwards. But in order to get an empty frame afterwards, we need a keyframe here. You need a keyframe here to say, be this small, and then you need a keyframe afterwards where you can delete everything that's on the frame. Oh, can't delete anything when it's locked. You also coincidentally need a keyframe on the bottom layer to tell it to no longer have this. So this is the other reason we're doing these kind of practical examples, is we need to learn things like if you want something to hold, you need a keyframe at the beginning and you need a keyframe at the end. There's no tween here. We need a keyframe at the beginning, a keyframe at the end. And then if we want something to go from here to black, well, we need a keyframe ending the animation. And then, oh, there shouldn't be a remove shape tween. There we go. And then there should be a blank keyframe afterwards to hold on nothing. In order to have nothing for a certain amount of time, you need keyframes saying be nothing for 5 frames. Otherwise, it doesn't. Otherwise, it just stops here. All right, so that's this assignment. Again, it's spelled out in the book. They go in a different order. They set up all the animation first, and then they turn on the masking, but it's the same effect. The second one is very, very similar. It's going to be the exact same idea. There's text on one layer. There's something on the other layer. It's just going to be starting off with a thing like that. Insert keyframe. And then instead of just, scaling things, actually you could scale things. If you put the anchor point out here, you can scale it like this. Whoops. It would of course help if I made this big enough to actually cover the whole word. There's no reason why this can't be bigger than it was. Like it can be huge. There we go. Oh, ha. If we want to move the anchor point before you put a keyframe in. There it is. Move this out like this. Set up a shape tween. Alright, it does this. I don't know why it says handwriting. This is not going to look like handwriting, but it will be a nice little reveal. If you don't like the word handwriting, replace it with whatever you want. Replace it, the font type, with whatever you want, you know. And there is an example of what this looks like here. So if you want to watch the Swift file, you can open it in Flash, and it's going to, or open it in Animate, and it will show you the finished animation. The Spotlight, I'm going to start with showing you the finished animation, because it's kind of the most complicated. There we go. So what's happening here is actually a trick, and they do spell out how to set this up. But where are we here? You need two versions of the same layer, text and text copy, right? And we're going to bring both of them out for a couple seconds. So text is what's going to get the mask. I'm going to very quickly make a spotlight shape, put it on here, and I'm going to turn it into a mask for that layer. But we can't see it being maxed out because underneath is an exact copy of this text layer. These two layers are identical. But the mask is doing this. All right? Now here's the trick of it. The copy underneath, we're going to apply a color effect to. We're going to tint it. You can already see the effect. But we're going to tint it dark. I'm going to turn that up. And how severe you want this is up to you. All right, but that, let me unlock this here. This spotlight, animating it using a classic tween, once you set up the mask, gets you that animated result. It gets you, I shouldn't have closed it. This. So we're animating the circle that acts as the mask to mask out that top layer so that you only see a little bit of it. So it looks like there's a light shining on something that's dark. There's not. It's an optical illusion. It's a cheat. Because who has time? This program, if it ever had lights, they would be very clunky. So we fake lighting. So bottom layer, this has a color effect on it. Or it doesn't. Tint. Hello? There we go. Has a color effect on it to make it darker. This layer, exact copy of it, no color effect, masked out by this circle, which you will then animate. All right. And these are meant to be kind of a see how far you can get with them. This is a way to roll us back into animation. So I'm not expecting that everyone would be able to like fully complete all three of these. Like we want to kind of iron out the kinks. We want to find, we want to remind ourselves of things like layers and masks and keyframes over the next week, but with something that's a little bit lower stakes than, we don't want to get to characters or anything yet, right? So that's why we're working with the book. And why I want you to at least attempt all three, right? See what you can get with out of these. And we also are looking to do something that's a little bit lower stakes to make sure your computer setups work, to make sure that software is working, to make sure the videos are working. So this is kind of like a trial run. I want to see you at least attempting all three of them. And then we can, see how far you get. And be prepared with any questions you might have for these. Certainly ask me, over the course of the week. I have office hours. Let's make not a liar out of myself. My office hours are... Can you tell I'm new to this office hours thing? Here we go. Monday 1 to 3 and Tuesday 10 to 12. So yeah, next week... setting up some office hours. And then also, if you start these before our little WebEx appointment on Wednesday, then you can also ask me questions then. All right, but this is week 9 as it's set up. So learning a few new things, lecture materials that go with the files. This is the survey you take afterwards, and then our only homework is just a couple things out of the book to kind of get the ball rolling again.